Hello, everyone. Here I am again. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe. It's free. And if you are a follower, thank you for watching these videos. My intention is basically to bring the knowledge that I've learned in the last 40 years, in everything that I've picked up, little tricks, little things that can help anyone. Comments have already started coming in, and which I will address in a future video. So here, like I said, this is not easy for me because I tend to be shy, very introvert. I don't like putting everything out there, but it's something that I feel I need to do. So I hope you are supportive and help me in this journey. Some of the comments that have come in, well, one of the suggestions was to push back the camera and maybe make it a little higher, which is, which I think you'll see the change from one video to the other. And from what I'm seeing right here, it looks good. Some of the comments that I've heard that have come in, people have asked about keratins, and the difference between keratins and in the Brazilian blowout or Botox, which I think that the two of them are pretty much the same thing, just different names. Which I will address in another video, in another episode coming probably after this one. Also, some things about color, which I will try to address today. And sorry for this, but it sounds better if I use this microphone, and I hope the music is not too loud that it's overpowering what I have to say. So, I mentioned about consultations. Consultations are, it's a, what is it, make it or break it time. I think I think the majority of my success in my business, thanks to the consultations, and one important key for me, which my great friend and teacher, Eddie Rodriguez from Academia de Belleza Borinquen, he said a lot of wise things, he had a lot of wise words to, for us. And one of the things that I kept in my mind was that one of them is, have clients bring pictures, because most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, they know what they want. It's just that they don't know how to explain it, or they think they do. And by the time you're done, it can be a disaster, and it has happened to me. So, don't feel bad about it. I think it's quite all right. And at the same time, what's in their heads, and you can tell them if it's going to work or if it's not going to work. And sometimes they'll bring the same person or the same star, model, whatever, in 3 different lighting situations, and they say, I like her color here, but I also like it here, but I like it how it looks here, blah blah blah. Pick one, just pick one, and we'll work on that. Same with haircuts, same with highlights. What is it that you want? So moving ahead, and also, when they're talking about color, I rather see what they're thinking in pictures than showing the swatch book, because the swatch book doesn't exactly tell you how the color is going to end, because usually those swatches are made on white hair, and a lot of the times, people who are coming to cover their grays only have a few gray, and they have mainly dark hair. So, you decide what works for you. What works for me. I would say I never showed anybody a swatch book. I just wanted to, I said, what do you want? You want a light brown, dark blonde, blah blah, one thing or the other, and and I took it from there. And and I used the swatch book just out of reference for me, just so that I can see more or less what the pigments are, whether it's an ash, it's a blue ash or a green ash or a turquoise ash, blue-green ash, like the Igora 0.3. Oh my God, that was an amazing ash, especially for the Latin community, which, they tend to pull a lot of red. And the good thing about that point 3 was that you know, they would come back 4, 5, 6 weeks later, and the color was the same. In other brands, usually they would fade out a little, that ash, and they would come back to retouch, and they were a little on the brassy side. So yeah, but then Igora had the bright idea to discontinue these lines, and I'm like, why? Point 2, point 3, they discontinued. They just kept point 1. Oh Christ! You know, lines. Companies will do that to you. You know, they'll do that stuff to you. Anywho, so let me touch on something, or maybe I should leave this for the next video about the comments. But when I used to do the formulating, you know, a lot of people go by what you learned in school. That's saying that from 1 to 5 are the brunettes, and from 6 to 10 are the blondes. Well, if you have used the colors that I have, you know, like Majorel, Go Well, Majorel Top Chic, and Evolution, and what's the other one, Igora, you know that these numbers are not really right. You know, for me, a 7, level 7, I always went by the numbers. I didn't care for the name. I mean, sure, the name, whatever, it was a name, you know, that it was given to the color. And I think it was according to those levels, you know, the 1 to 5, 6 to 10. But it's not the same. You know, I went by the numbers. Yes, there are some color lines, like from Misi, for example. You use what is it, a 5 for a light brown? It's almost a black, you know, almost, I would say. But for example, if a client wanted a dark brown, I would use a level 5, and that was dark, you know, at least for me. 6 would be a medium brown, 7 would be a light brown, so forth and so on. And so the other thing is that, you know, the proportions of peroxide, you can mix colors, you can mix brands, you can mix. I've done it before where I use Clairol and Wella, and as I've explained before, the proportions can be different. Anything that's 2 ounces, it's equal parts. Anything that's an ounce and a half is double the amount of peroxide. If you combine these 2 colors, you have to use the same proportion of peroxide. In other words, if you're using a 2 ounce product with a 1.5, you're going to end up using 5 ounces of peroxide instead of 3.5, because the 1.5, you know, takes double, the 2 takes equal parts. So moving forward, how do I formulate? Well, that I've mentioned before also, stay teachable, stay open-minded, flexible. And, you know, I was constantly, because it was strongly suggested by my friend Eddie Rodriguez and pretty much every other teacher, go to every single seminar that you can, even though if things don't make sense, put it in the back of your mind, because eventually you'll hear something that said, oh, you know, this is what they were talking about. And one of the things was, I remember when we were using the Wella color, you know, the Wella stuff, and you know, there were no ends, and there were no, you know, to cover gray, you know, a lot of people even though these colors should be very good in covering gray because of the amount of ammonia, it didn't happen. So some people always suggested to take like a cap of like either a dark brown or black, and just a little cap, and just put it into your formula to give it more pigment, because the problem is that the color doesn't have enough pigment, is not going to really deposit enough pigment into your hair. And if the color is resistant, well, I mean your gray is resistant, yeah, it's going to be a little troublesome. But then later on, I learned something really interesting. You know, then the ends came out, which were equal parts of all the pigments, so it would help in the formulating and having the exact balance of pigments to be able to cover gray. So L'Oreal, I don't know if they still have it in their swatch books, but I remember way back when I moved to Miami, I they had this chart in the back, which was had to do with the visual part of the color. They had the, they divided the chart in the ends, like at level 8 is at level 8, level 7, level 6, and then the rest of the colors, anything that was golden, would come just below that end, meaning that even though it's an 8 and gold, for example, it would appear lighter, to the eye. If it's an ash, it would be a little on the in between the 7 and the 6, for example. A 7 ash would be a little darker than a 7N because of the visual, light bouncing off the hair. That's so that it's an information that I got. I didn't quite understand. I sort of understood what it said, but I wasn't sure. So what I used to do, so formulating, a client comes in, she wants to be a light brown. Okay, so immediately my main color is going to be a 7N because of course they're covering gray. The other thing that L'Oreal taught me was that depending on the amount of gray, you're going to put the amount of N. So basically, what I did was, and it worked beautiful for me, was to put the proportion was 2 to 1. So 2 parts of the N, 1 part of the accent color, if you want to call it. So again, because of the way colors, fall into that chart that I mentioned, you can always make comments and ask me questions. If you don't understand this, just in the comments ask me the question. What exactly do you mean by this? So what I did was, just to make that color pop out, really, what I did was, for example, I would use a total of, 2 ounces of product and 2 ounces of peroxide normally. So what I did was I took and I did 1.5 of N and half of the accent color. That accent color I would always use, let's say I'm formulating for 7. And if I needed accent color, I would use a 6, S6A, S6G, whatever. And that way it would pop, it would pop more. There would be more of three-dimensionality to the color. That worked for me. I don't know, maybe you're formulating differently. And if working for you, that's fine. I would like to hear from you. Like I said, I'm open-minded. I feel like I still could learn more. Maybe your way works with certain people, other ways, for other people. Now we have to understand that, I mentioned something about the thickness of hair. Thick hair takes longer to process. Thin hair process faster. So, anyways, so choosing the right peroxide. I'm getting to my 15 minutes and I'm running out of time. Peroxides. We were taught that 10 only deposits. Not true. It does lighten, because trust me, I've used it. 20 is the normal. What we were told that this is, and to pass a bar, that's what we're supposed to use. It's the 20 volume. Then 30 pulls and 40 pulls. More, it goes lighter, but it does pull a lot of red. So you have to be very careful how you're formulating and what your choices of developer. The application of color. I would put the protector, which is that oil that I talked about, which is, this is a funny story, and this is something I picked up when I lived in Boston. I lived in Boston for 4 years. I could say I learned a lot living there and with the people who I worked with. There was this guy, his name was Sacco. He worked for Farmisi, I think it was. He was the technical or creative director for Farmisi, I think it was. And I learned a couple of things from him. The glazing stuff, and it was interesting. Maybe I'll talk about it in the next. In the comments. And like you say, I always used, when I needed to extend color, if I needed to extend color, I would use a rat tail comb, not this one, which is on even teeth. I would use the one that's all the same. And what I would do is I would comb it. I would comb it. That way you don't have to mix extra product, and this will extend it beautifully. And with your fingers, and to just to make just to extend it, that way. And for people who sometimes the gray sticks out, what I used to do is put end papers. Comb it back and put end papers so that it would hold the gray into the hair. I mean, they look pretty. Clients looked great with those things on, but hey, it's what. But it worked. It helped. So let's see. Yeah, there's a couple of I've gotten to the 15 minutes. I want to leave it at that. I really don't want to make it too boring or too long. And I'll do a part 3.1, and I'll talk about these specific things. And again, thank you for hanging on this long, and I hope you got something out of it. If you have other tricks, please let me know. I want to know. I want to learn. Because you never know. What else? If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe down below. It's free, and please make comments, ask questions, because that helps me to come up with topics, with episodes. I mean, I do have a bunch of them that I really want to talk about, and I'll probably record those, and in between, anything that I can clear up for people, I will do too. So again, I love you all, and thank you for supporting me, and we'll see you in the next episode.